John Adams served as the second President of the United States from 1797 to 1801. He was a prominent founding father and played a pivotal role in advocating for independence from Britain. As a Federalist, Adams succeeded George Washington, inheriting the complexities of a young nation. His presidency was marked by significant challenges, including internal divisions and external threats. Adams was known for his political acumen and commitment to the rule of law. Despite his dedication, Adams faced criticism and opposition that would define his time as president. The legacy of John Adams is one of both progress and controversy. While he was instrumental in establishing the country's early governance, his presidency was marred by decisions that provoked widespread debate. Understanding Adams's role is crucial to comprehending the evolution of American political history. His era was defined by the challenges of maintaining peace and order in a new republic. The late 18th century was a period of intense international tension. The United States, still finding its footing on the global stage, faced threats from multiple fronts. One of the most pressing concerns during John Adams's presidency was the looming possibility of war with France. The French Revolution had erupted in 1789, leading to widespread conflict in Europe. As France and Britain clashed, the United States was caught in the geopolitical crossfire. The Quasi-War, an undeclared naval conflict between the United States and France, heightened tensions. This conflict stemmed from French anger over American neutrality, and the signing of the Jay Treaty with Britain. The French viewed the treaty as a betrayal and began seizing American ships. Adams's administration was under immense pressure to respond appropriately. Domestically, the possibility of war sowed fear and uncertainty. The Federalists, led by Adams, advocated for a strong response to French aggression. Meanwhile, the Democratic Republicans, led by Thomas Jefferson, favored diplomacy and were wary of escalating military involvement. The fear of war influenced several of Adams' policies, including his controversial decision to pass the Alien and Sedition Acts. The Alien and Sedition Acts were a series of 4 laws passed by the Federalist-controlled Congress in 1798. These acts were signed into law by President John Adams and have been the subject of intense historical scrutiny. The Alien Act allowed the president to deport non-citizens deemed dangerous. The Sedition Act made it illegal to publish false or malicious statements against the government. The intent behind these acts was to strengthen national security during a time of perceived threat. However, they were seen by many as draconian measures that violated the principles of free speech and due process. The Naturalization Act extended the residency requirement for citizenship, further fueling controversy. Many believe these laws were aimed at weakening the political influence of immigrants, who were often aligned with the Democratic Republicans. Critics argued that the Alien and Sedition Acts were tools for suppressing political dissent. The acts gave the federal government unprecedented power over individuals and speech. The Sedition Act, in particular, was used to prosecute several journalists and politicians who were critical of Adams's administration. Section 4. Political tension and threats to free speech. The enactment of the Alien and Sedition Acts exacerbated political tensions in the United States. The Federalists who supported the acts argued that they were necessary to protect the nation from foreign influence and domestic unrest. Conversely, the Democratic Republicans viewed the acts as an overreach of government power. This deepened the existing divide between the two parties, leading to increased partisan hostility. The Sedition Act in particular posed a direct threat to free speech. It criminalized criticism of the government, leading to the prosecution of several prominent figures. The most notable case was that of Republican Congressman Matthew Lyon, who was fined and imprisoned for criticizing President Adams. This raised significant concerns about the protection of civil liberties and the First Amendment. Public opinion was sharply divided, with many viewing the acts as a betrayal of American values. Newspaper editors were targeted, and the press became a battleground for political ideology. The conflict over these acts highlighted the fragile nature of civil liberties in a time of perceived threat. Section 5. The impact of partisan rivalries on Adams's decisions. Partisan rivalries played a significant role in shaping the presidency of John Adams. The political landscape was dominated by 2 main factions: the Federalists, led by Adams and Alexander Hamilton, and the Democratic Republicans, led by Thomas Jefferson and James Madison. These parties had fundamentally different visions for the future of the United States, leading to intense political conflict. Adams often found himself caught between the competing interests of these factions. The Federalists were strong advocates for a centralized government and close ties with Britain. In contrast, the Democratic Republicans favored states' rights and stronger relations with France. These rivalries influenced many of Adams's decisions, including his approach to foreign policy and domestic governance. The Alien and Sedition Acts were a product of this partisan conflict. Federalists supported the acts as a means of consolidating power and suppressing opposition. Democratic Republicans, however, saw them as a blatant attack on their political influence and a threat to democracy. Section 6. The Constitutional Crisis over Civil Liberties. The Alien and Sedition Acts triggered a constitutional crisis over civil liberties. The acts raised fundamental questions about the limits of government power and the protection of individual rights. Critics argued that these laws violated the First Amendment, which guarantees freedom of speech and the press. The debate over the constitutionality of the acts was fierce and far-reaching. Several states, including Virginia and Kentucky, passed resolutions condemning the acts. These resolutions, known as the Virginia and Kentucky Resolutions, were authored by Thomas Jefferson and James Madison. They asserted that states had the right to nullify federal laws deemed unconstitutional. This introduced the concept of nullification, which would surface in later conflicts over states' rights. The prosecutions under the Sedition Act were seen as a direct assault on the principles of democracy. The crisis underscored the need for vigilance in protecting individual freedoms, especially during times of national insecurity. Section 7. The lasting impact of John Adams' presidency. John Adams' presidency left a lasting impact on the United States. His tenure was marked by significant achievements, such as avoiding war with France through diplomatic means. However, it is the controversies of his presidency, particularly the Alien and Sedition Acts, that have defined his legacy. These events had profound implications for the development of American political and legal systems. The Alien and Sedition Acts served as a catalyst for the evolution of political discourse in the United States. They highlighted the importance of protecting civil liberties and set the stage for future debates over the limits of governmental power. The controversy surrounding these acts contributed to the eventual decline of the Federalist Party and the rise of the Democratic Republicans. Adams's presidency also underscored the challenges of leadership in a polarized political environment. The debates and decisions of Adams' time continue to influence the trajectory of American democracy, serving as a reminder of the enduring challenges of balancing power and liberty.